Welcome to Houston Sports Talk with your host, Robert Land.
Thanks for checking into the best Houston sports podcast for an Andre Johnson tribute. In the last decade of our show, we've talked to his teammates and a couple of guys lucky enough to cover him. You're about to hear stories from Case Keenum, Glover Quin, Sage Rosenfels, J.J. Moses, John McClain, and Marc Vandermeer. When Andre didn't make the Hall of Fame in 2023, Sports Radio 610 Shaun Bijani and I made our case for Dre and Quin. So that's how we'll get things started.
He's a 4-time All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowl. We know that, but 11th all-time in catches and receiving yards, 11th in both categories, despite a bunch of crappy quarterbacks and a mediocre Matt Schaub the whole time he was in Houston. And listen to this. His 3 1,500-yard seasons only trail the wide receiver GOAT, Jerry Rice, with 4. His 3 seasons with a combined 100 receptions and 1,500 yards are more than anybody currently in Canton. Nobody in Canton right now has more 100-yard seasons. He has an NFL record 21 straight games with at least 10 catches and 100 yards. I'm going to keep going. He did it all, even though the best wide receiver he had was Kevin Walter. Kevin Walter was the best wide receiver. His career started in the second year of an expansion team. So he had that working against him. He never played with another Hall of Famer on offense unless DeAndre Hopkins gets in the Hall of Fame, but Dre was in his last 2 years when he played with Hopkins. In Andre's prime, he was in and this is important, he was in a Kubiak offense not designed at all to get wide receivers touchdowns when they got inside the 10. They pretty much never threw a fade or jump ball to Andre, which is crazy considering how huge and athletic he was. And Shaun, he did it all while never complaining or whining or boasting, which is the huge exception among NFL wide receivers. Case closed.
Can I put the cherry on top for you? There's 29 receivers currently in the Hall of Fame, and Reggie Wayne, Torrey Holt, both of them were up for induction along with Andre Johnson going into the 2023 class. Neither one of those three are going to go into the Hall of Fame this year. Andre Johnson has more receptions than 24 of the 29 current receivers in the Hall of Fame. He's gained more yards than 23 of them, scored more touchdowns than 10 of them, played in more games than 18 of those already enshrined. He's 11th all-time in receiving yards amongst Hall of Fame players.
You know, I was on the same team with Dre, and it took me probably a month to even speak to Dre because I felt like I couldn't even speak to him. Like, man, I can't say anything to Dre right now. Me and my roommate, we used to come back to the room every day and be like, bro, did you speak to Dre today? And it was like, nah, bro, not today. You know what I'm saying? He was just that, like, he had that aura about him, but he worked, man. And, you know, I remember lining up against him in practice, and I didn't talk any noise. And he didn't either. He just went out, went to work and did his thing. You know, I remember one day I caught an interception in OTAs, and I had returned it. And as I'm running back to get back on defense, Dre sticks his hand out and like give me like a little low five. I went back to the sideline. I told my roommate, I'm like, bro, Dre doubt me up. I think I'm gonna speak to him today. You know what I'm saying? And you know, that's just kind of how it was. So we basically kind of built that relationship. You know, I didn't come in just trying to be super cool with Dre just because he was Dre and I wanted to be, you know, I don't know, say I was cool with Dre. I just wanted to come in and earn my respect. I wanted to earn my keep with all the guys, and that's just kind of how I went about my business. I'm gonna go to work. I'm gonna work hard. I'm gonna play. I'm gonna compete. When it's between the whistles, between the lines, I gotta compete. You know, I remember going through the draft process, and that was one thing that the coach that used to call me all the time, Perry Carter. That's one thing he used to say. You know, when he was just kind of asking me questions about the draft and stuff, he would always say, you know, if we bring you in, you ain't gonna be scared to compete with Andre, right? Like, you know, you ain't gonna be scared when you line up in front of Andre. And I was just like, you know, at the time, I'm saying whatever. No, I ain't gonna be scared. You know, man, I'm ready to go. You know what I'm saying? Because I wanted to get drafted or whatever. And you know, that first day of practice when it actually really happened, and you line up in front of Andre Johnson, you like, oh snap! All right, here we go. This Andre. I can't be scared. You know, I can't be scared. But oh snap, this Andre.
What was it like to be there from the very start with Andre Johnson? Tell me about a young Andre Johnson.
Andre Johnson, man, how can you not be in love with a guy like him? Meaning, Andre was a guy, man, that you could just really just appreciate his work ethic. He came out and practiced hard. He was a guy that he didn't speak much, but when he did speak, you know, everyone paid attention to what he had to say. And he was just one of those guys when I remember when he first got here with the Texans, you knew he was going to be special. And there was one particular episode where him and Aaron Glenn were against each other on one-on-ones, and it was Andre's rookie season, and he put a move on Aaron, and I said, oh, this guy's legit, man. This guy's going to be somebody special in the league. But it was a great, just a great opportunity for me to, you know, be teammates with Andre for 2 seasons, learned a lot from him, but most importantly, he was just a great guy on and off the field as well.
Hey, let me ask you, you played with baby Andre Johnson. Tell us about something about Andre Johnson. Give us a story of the Andre that we didn't get to know because he was such a quiet guy for the fans. And it feels like we don't even know who Andre Johnson is except the guy in the field.
Y'all don't, man. And he's probably one of my best friends in the world, man, as far as he's a different cat, man. Like, outside of him owing me a whole lot of money over these Miami, Florida State games over the years. Make sure y'all check that out if you're writing this out or whatever. But, no, just kidding, man. But, we got bets going, and we don't ever collect on these bets. So, right now, since we won 7 years in a row before this year, I'm up a whole lot of fictional Monopoly money dang near. You know what, man? He's a funny dude, man. Like, Andre, one of the funniest dudes I know. If he don't know you, he don't fool with you. You got to really be in the crew, but he's a loyal individual. He's a loyal dude. The friends that he got been his friends his whole life. To be around him is great. I can't tell y'all have a story because they're not appropriate to tell. The good ones, you know what I'm saying? But there's nobody like him. If you don't know him, you've missed out on so much of who he is. Because the X-Ray that y'all see on TV, the Dre that never had any major sponsors his entire career, which is crazy to me. Like, you think of all these great receivers, and Dre should be a Hall of Famer, and I think we'll get in the Hall of Fame. I think Hall of Fame will let him get in because of the fact that he's played with 50 quarterbacks in his time.
Yeah, that's got to factor into it. I agree.
I think that factors in. I think that factors in majorly that he put those numbers on losing teams all these years. You know what I'm saying? On teams that not even losing teams, on teams that never had a stable quarterback except for a 4-year span of Matt Schaub. You see what I'm saying?
Let me ask you about Andre Johnson. What comes to mind when I say his name?
Andre was just phenomenal. I'd never played with a physical receiver like him before, whatever he was, 6'4" and 35 pounds. He was just a physical freak. But the way he was soft-spoken, didn't say a lot, and just went to work every single day. He had his own Friday workouts in the summertime. I think someone labeled as like the hurricane workout or the Canes workout or something like that, which some players showed up for. That was extremely challenging. Andre was not outworked, but he was one of those rare players that was extremely talented and refused to be outworked by anybody. So one of my all-time teammates, the best wide receiver I ever played with in my time in college or the NFL, and in my opinion, should be a Hall of Fame receiver.
Can you tell us what it was like to throw passes to Andre? And you got an Andre story for us.
Man, he's a special dude. I could go on and on about Andre. I love that guy to death, man. He's one of the best. I'll go fanboy here. He's one of the best looking guys in football pads I've ever been around. Like, just he comes out for warm-ups and you're like, okay, we're gonna be all right. We're gonna be all right. Like, he's one of those guys you want coming out of the tunnel first. But my second start ever at home against the Colts on Sunday Night Football, I throw 3 touchdowns to him in the first half. He's just, it was unconscious, just the dude making some incredible plays. But the third touchdown pass was a 2-minute drive right before half. We're going down. I think I scrambled the 10-yard line, and we call, a clock situation or a kill spike. And we have the option if we, as quarterbacks back then, if we wanted to, I could, give my receiver a fade, by tapping the head or something. I'm yelling out, all I hear is see him looking at me and just tapping his head like pretty forcefully. And he doesn't say much at all ever, but he was yelling my name and tapping his head. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to throw you a fade. I just nodded at him. I said, yes, sir. And threw him a fade for his third touchdown of the half. It was pretty fun. That was the unfortunate day that Coach Kubiak, went down on the way in, and we wound up not winning that game. But yeah, Andre's my guy. He's special.
What's the defining moment of an Andre Johnson career? I don't know if anything really specific comes to mind. I think of the Redskins game where he catches the game-winning pass towards the end of the game. You might think of a couple of the catches and touchdowns that he made in the playoffs. But is there a moment for you that comes to mind?
Yeah, when he beat the hell out of Cortland Finnegan. People think about Andre, and as Antonio Smith was saying, he was quiet. He let his actions speak louder than words, and sometimes he let his fists speak louder than words. I think when everybody saw him pound Cortland Finnegan, I went up to him the next day and I said, I thought you told me you'd never been in a fight. He said, well, you said in the NFL. And it's pretty obvious the way Andre was standing, throwing punches, because most players didn't fight, that he had been in fights and knew how to fight. And I think that helped his reputation even more as a physical player. Andre's 6'3" and 230. He's a great blocker, and he was tough. I don't think things that were negative about his career, like only winning 2 division championships, winning 2 playoff games, touchdowns, that's going to have much to do with him being in the Hall of Fame.
Well, I don't know if you're having Andre Johnson withdrawals, but, you spent the last 2 decades calling his games. When he gets into Canton, it's going to be a little bit of a Marc Vandermeer tribute when they show his highlights. That's got to be a day that you're really looking forward to. You've had to think about that a little bit.
I never even thought of that when they show his highlights going into Canton, that I'll be on the call a lot, because I've seen a lot of highlights lately with him signing to retire as a Texan, and a lot of those calls being played, and it's very flattering. It's wonderful to be a part of that. I mean, that's a great thing about the NFL. They really respect the radio announcer's call, I think, much more than other leagues, other teams, which is understandable because in the NBA and Major League Baseball, the TV play-by-play guys are team guys, and those are home calls. You want the home calls because they're going to get more excited with great things happening to the player. But in the NFL, the only home call is radio.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.